Hello, this is a short little video based upon the three works Albert Park in camera made for the Incognito art event. This feels a bit like an acquittal video for a arts grant. It's only being made for 3 people and will probably be taken down in a few months. I'm an Englishman in his 50s who moved to Melbourne over a decade ago. I've done various things in life, but what motivates me to make art for the public? My public art is about connecting people through the spaces they share. In contemporary life, we're often made to feel that our tribe is found in some little obscure corner of the internet. But we have so much in common with the strangers we share public spaces with. Well, the 3 drawings are of a park, Albert Park, which of all the local spaces is the one that I know the best, and is almost certainly the one that's best known outside of South Melbourne, as it's the home to the Australian Grand Prix. Urban parks, such as Albert Park, are essential to the well-being of Australians. 2/3 of Australians live in one of the capital cities, and 75% of us live in urban settings. Australia may be a land of wide open spaces, but Australians are overwhelmingly an urban people. Our daily dose of sanity is walking the dog on a footy oval or drinking a coffee from a park bench. 3 years ago, I made a pavement piece about the uber-urban nature of parts of South Melbourne, using an anamorphic reworking of a lino cut by Maurice Carter from the 1940s, contrasted with the residential buildings and the high-rise primary school in the background. For those people interested in South Melbourne, the YouTuber Spanian made a vlog about parts of South Melbourne, which you might like to check out. In suburbs, where few have even a courtyard garden, access to public green spaces is essential. Which leads us on to the question of when these images were made. The 3 drawings for Incognito were made during the takedown phase of the Australian Grand Prix. Even now, in mid-June, the last of the bleachers are finally coming down. The first drawing was made while there were heavy restrictions on park access. By the time of the 3rd drawing, the park had largely opened up. The Grand Prix, maybe only for a few days, but the park is completely closed for a week, with heavy restrictions for 3 weeks, and disruption for 6 months of every year. Unsurprisingly, giving a private enterprise, in the name of Formula One, the right to close a public park for extended periods, and provide a very large subsidy from the public purse, is not without criticism. Indeed, there are plaques and websites about the protest to the Grand Prix. Even Lunig made some protest cartoons at one point. However, rather than focus on the restrictions imposed by the Grand Prix, in making these 3 images, my focus is on the space and its relationship to nearby domestic buildings, the things that I share with others, regardless of their views on the Grand Prix. As anyone who knows me knows that I'm very influenced by the artist Elizabeth Parsons. She had a very famous quote about the infinite variety of nature and the need to have a constant recourse to her resources. Well, that meant she went plein air sketching. So back in 2020, I made my own sketching easel at the local men's shed, hoping to go and use it during COVID. Sadly, that was not possible. Now, Parsons was taught by J.D. Harding, whose books on drawing are still in print, and Harding in turn was taught by the Sandby brothers. So one well-known work by Paul Sandby is called Windsor from the Goswells, drawn in camera obscura. And in this picture, Sandby used a tent camera obscura to make the image. Having spent some time looking at Parsons' work, I'm convinced he used a camera lucida on occasion, particularly when drawing panoramas. For these drawings, I chose to use a neo-lucida, a modern reworking of a camera lucida, hence the title of the works, Albert Park in camera. A big part of my motivation in using a camera lucida was to force me out of my own established visual language and try to draw what is. At this point I'm dropping in a short little edit. I don't actually believe it's possible to draw what is. The only thing I can do is to draw what appears to be true according to my senses. And in drawing at this A5 scale, I've discovered there are actually quite real restrictions upon detail that's possible to put in due to the smallness and the relationship of the thickness of a pencil to the size of the paper being used. The lucida is not easy to use, but it does give you a freedom to explore mark making. I chose to use graphite after exploring various other media. Graphite is such an immediate material that the drawings are wholly done in the park. The paper I used was the best A5 paper I could get my hands on at the time. It's a Fabriano watercolour paper. It's permanent but not archival. That's to mean that providing it's not handled extensively, it will last forever, but it will not withstand a lot of handling. Also, the first two images were fixed with the Sennelier Delacroix drawing fixative. I ran out of this just for the last image and ended up using a casein fixative. But these are fixatives, not varnishes, so the surface is still vulnerable. In short, the drawings are still relatively fragile and are best placed behind glass and in a frame and handled rarely if you want them to last. And as I said, for number 3, if you want to tilt it over a couple of degrees when it's on the wall, that would be fantastic. Why did I create these drawings for Incognito? Well, it looked like a fun event. I've been planning to create a project based on small images of about a size 6 or smaller for some time, and this seemed like a good way to start that process. To date, the smallest images I've made for public consumption have been 70 centimeters long, and my chalk images are about 10 meters or so long and about 6 meters wide. So making a small image was new territory for me, and an area I'd like to become proficient in. So these are the first 3 images in this new venture, and they're presented to you as part of Incognito, and I hope you enjoy them. Thank you for your time.